Well, hello. This is Karin Zoe Lee, and you're listening to Lotus Moon Productions. Welcome to the Wrastlin Wrantz project. Whatever the promotion, we're here to learn and discuss. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the next 45 minutes of wrestling discussion with your hosts, Shugo and James.
Welcome back to the Wrastlin Wrantz project. It's our first episode of the new year, and as always, there is lots to talk about. WWE is preparing for one of its most popular, if not the most popular pay-per-view of the year, the Royal Rumble on January 31st, and AEW and Impact have developed an amazing partnership that has been kicking ass. This Saturday is Impact's Hard to Kill pay-per-view, which will feature the AEW champion Kenny Omega, and the Good Brothers made their AEW in-ring debut just last night. So with so much to talk about, let's start off things by welcoming my co-host back from the holidays. How's it going today, James?
Happy New Year to everybody. I know it's 2 weeks into the new year, but better late than never. Yeah, it's going good. I mean, it's a new year, new lockdown here in the UK. So, yeah, things are exactly the same as normal.
Yeah, and Happy New Year to you as well. And yeah, it's just as things are. I mean, over here in Canada, things are a little bit more lenient on the eastern coast, but over in Ontario and everything, it's probably just like the UK.
It's just stick in there. If you're listening to this and you're currently having to abide by it, we just keep going. Anyway, lots of wrestling to chat about and watch, so you shouldn't be bored.
No, yeah, there's definitely a lot out there to talk about. I mean, where do you want to begin? Do you want to talk a little bit about WWE? Do you want to talk about AEW last night? Do you want to talk about Impact? Do you want to talk about the Elite coming back together? Did you catch up on Wrestle Kingdom and all? There's so much. Just pick a spot and we'll go.
Well, since it happened last night, shall we go AEW, work backwards, Impact, and try and work everything else that has happened since we last spoke, which, as you say, is quite a list, really.
Yeah, there's a lot to go through. So we'll chat about as much as we possibly can within 45 minutes or so. So let's start off with AEW Dynamite. It was New Year's Smash Part 2. And yeah, I really enjoyed myself. I thought the main event between Darby Allin and Brian Cage was pretty crazy. Darby Allin can take a beating like nobody else. I enjoyed Pac versus Eddie Kingston. I really enjoyed that match between Serena Deeb and Ty Conti for the NWA Championship. What about you?
Very similar. The wake-up call of Pac jumping the top rope and hitting Eddie Kingston full pelt. Pac is amazing. It's a little bit slow getting back, but obviously 9 months off, it's going to be like that. But he is kicking on all cylinders again. Yeah, that main event with Darby Allin and Brian Cage was phenomenal at points. The throw Cage did to put Darby through the table from inside the ring was crazy. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite as impactful as that, to be honest. A little bit confused. I didn't know biting was a babyface move. But
well, from my point of view, you had to even the odds. I mean, we had Taz on commentary being a hypocrite the entire time.
Yeah.
Saying, "Oh, bro, Darby can't do this, but Brian Cage can totally throw Darby Allin through a table and it'd be legal." And Brian Cage can get up the steps, and Brian Cage can do all this. So Darby Allin's like, "Man, I am 100 pounds less than you, and you just threw me to a table. I'm gonna bite your little ass off."
Brian Cage doesn't know his own strength. That's his problem. Yeah, it was fantastic. And see the whole tease effectively that Kenny Omega was going to be with his best friends and the World Tag Team Champions. I mean, yeah, we knew it was coming, but come on, it was brilliant. Dickhead Kenny Omega at his best there. So yeah, it's a great episode. They've had a good couple of episodes. This New Year's Smash has been, yeah, great way to start the new year. Obviously had a brilliant ending to the year despite the difficult circumstances with the Brody Lee show, which, I mean, that had me in tears. I haven't been on the podcast since that happened, but the Hangman Page Dark Order match, I was crying at the end of it. So yeah, perfect tribute show there. And yeah, Snoop Dogg last week as well. I forgot. He did what he had to do, did his appearance and got out there. So yeah, Dynamite, as we've always said on this podcast, has set the standard, and week by week, it's always must-watch television.
Yeah, it is. It is like every episode. I mean, you can call me a mark, you can call me a wrestling nerd because that's what I am. But at the end of the day, AEW Dynamite has been consistent every single week. I mean, and again, you're as a fan, you don't have to like every segment. You don't have to like every wrestler. I don't like every wrestler, but it's consistency. It's within the storyline. And speaking of like crazy storylines, when we were speaking of Kenny Omega the Dick, and he's playing his role so well with Don Callis and this whole partnership with Impact. There's so many layers to this storyline as well. And the fact that the Young Bucks, weren't brought out, but the Good Brothers were. I mean, obviously backstage, New Year's Smash was taped back to back. So, this week's episode was taped from last week. But that's the reason why Nick Jackson wasn't used, because he had a little bit of an injury. And people on, watching BTE would know that. And, if they read the quote unquote dirt sheets, as we call them. But, yeah, I mean, Nick Jackson couldn't wrestle, so I liked how they got fancy with that. I liked how they got creative with that, and they were like, well, the Elite are about to come out. Everybody thinks the Elite's going to face, whomever, because the Elite were in action. But then they change it to the Good Brothers coming out and having their in-ring debut, which I thought was a very creative way to spin things around, to hide the injury from Nick Jackson, still make him look strong, and continue the feud and make it build even better, because obviously, the Young Bucks have been struggling with that decision, what we were meant to believe at home, that, yeah, of course, they're with their buddies, they're with the old the Bullet Club Elite from New Japan, everything's kind of adding up. And then, of course, little tease on BTE where they were kind of upset with the Good Brothers because, as people know, if they read backstage stuff, the Good Brothers were supposed to debut in AEW, and they were supposed to their first major feud was supposed to be with the Young Bucks. But things with WWE and Impact and everything like that, and so there's a bunch of messy stuff there. But they're adding everything together, and I just love the layers.
Yeah, as you've touched upon, that whole backstory with the Good Brothers were meant to be that debut Dynamite with hopefully AJ Styles as well. That was the rumor, that they were very close to signing all of them up for effectively a Bullet Club Civil War. But then that's how the Inner Circle was born, apparently. Yeah, it's interesting seeing how AEW is able to adjust its set plans on short-term notice. We had obviously the injury to Nick Jackson, which, as you say, BTE showed it. He got an injury in the tag team match that was aired last week. Obviously, was prior to the recording of last night's episode, and but also they've had it in the past where we had Lance Archer testing positive for COVID, and they had to change the main event to Eddie Kingston, and that resulted in a fantastic feud between Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley. And just kind of doing a comparison, because it's easy to do, with WWE this week, with the announcement that Drew McIntyre has got COVID and the quick change that they had to make to their main event. The difference was very stark between the two. It shows what having long-term storylines, having characters that have characters and character arcs does to a company. It allows you to adjust and make it seem a natural move. Whilst, yeah, Raw, for me, the introduction of Triple H in the main event is very jarring in comparison. And it's very easy when those two things align, because you go, well, here's one company that is rich in this storyline. This is what we want to see. And then you have the WWE side, which is more reactionary. They have a reactionary booking stance, and they seem to go week to week. And I think if you wanted a comparison, this week has really shown that between the two companies.
Yeah, and I'm going to make 2 points here based on mentioning Jon Moxley and Triple H. Now, first on the AEW side, when Jon Moxley came out to attack Kenny Omega, that was continuing the feud because, of course, they're probably going to face each other at Revolution. This is going to continue on. I mean, maybe they might do it over Beach Break. I don't know. But when Jon Moxley came out and he was pissed off, and eventually the Young Bucks came out to try and separate everything. Then the Lucha Brothers got involved. It's like AEW is defending the honor and nobody knows who's who and who's good and who's face, but that's or who's face or heel. But the greatest part about that is, again, the consistency. The characters know their roles. Everyone else at the home knows their roles. Like, even when the Lucha Brothers come out, you're like, oh wow, the Lucha Brothers are here. But oh yeah, okay, Pac's not with them. That makes sense. They're trying to defend AEW. They're going on. They have a little bit of history with the Young bucks. And that that adds even more layers to what I was mentioning before. So all of that, like with the Lucha Brothers, on the Impact side, right? It's Rich Swann and Motor City Machine Guns versus Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers, which I'm totally looking forward to this Saturday. But at the same time, on the AEW side, it's Jon Moxley and the Lucha Brothers versus the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. But the Young Bucks are really confused right now about, what's going on. Do we trust you? Do we not? Things are escalating a little bit too far. So there's a bunch of storyline there. But on the WWE side, obviously, it sucks that Drew McIntyre, got COVID, and I really hope that he recovers fine and no complications arise from it, because health and safety is number one. But in regarding Triple H coming on the show, Triple H was there to fill in Drew McIntyre's roles. Now, I've heard a lot of people saying, like, the entire script was ripped up and everything. It was done late again, and people are giving it a pass because of COVID and stuff like that. But the thing is, the only person it really affected was Drew McIntyre. And we hear about this all the time, scripts getting changed, everything getting changed at last minute, continually. And COVID right now, I'm not saying it's not an exception, but it'd be like you and I talking. If we had, notes on or bullet points on a page, like you and I have notes when we talk about wrestling podcasts. And if I was unable to talk to you, I would just scrap those notes out and replace them with something else. Not the entire podcast wouldn't be thrown out, or the entire notes wouldn't be thrown out, right? So, go ahead.
I was just saying exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So with Triple H coming out and covering all of Drew McIntyre's parts, I think he did it well. I think it fueled the Randy Orton Fiend storyline well. But the entire episode was just all over the place. And then we find out, a lot of people weren't on Raw on Monday. But it had nothing to do with COVID. They were just all backstage unused. Charlotte was there, but Asuka was backstage. Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin were not there, or were there, but they were just backstage. And so many others. So I was like, why have we done this? It's not like, one person gets sick and goes home and the entire show flops upside down and 3 hours worth of scripts go out the door. Just because your champion isn't there doesn't mean you can't make an excellent show. I mean, case in point, think about SmackDown a year and a half ago when they were stuck in Saudi Arabia, or was it last year now? But, when NXT came out for Survivor Series and NXT invaded SmackDown while they were stuck over in Saudi Arabia, and that was one of the best SmackDowns I've ever seen. We had amazing matches, and the main feature was Adam Cole defending his title. So it's not, I don't like that excuse. I don't like, oh, someone got sick, so this is the reason why our show sucked. And it's like, I'm sick of the excuses. And I don't mean to be cruel that way, because COVID-19 can definitely affect a lot of things in a lot of different ways. And, as I say, safety and health comes first. But when I hear that all of those wrestlers are just backstage being unused for no reason whatsoever, and the entire script had to be rewritten, I'm like, how does a 3-hour script have to be rewritten because your champion had to sit out? The entire night was not built around one guy. So, I mean, so when we talk about, AEW just consistently doing everything, and then WWE's all over the place, and when it comes to Raw, I can't watch it much anymore. It's in the background. Honestly, I'll always watch WWE to the day I die, and I've said this, and I'll live by that. But I'm getting really, really, really tired of the inconsistency, the random stuff that happens, and personally, I do not want to see Lacey Evans and Ric Flair. That's nasty. Like, Lacey Evans going around calling people nasties? No, you're nasty. Like, I just, there's just so much all over the place, and I don't know. But the only highlight from Raw for me, honestly, I mean, Triple H and Randy Orton going back and forth, that was good. And I really like the Fiend thing with Alexa Bliss and everything. And there's rumors about a Firefly Funhouse at the Royal Rumble, but Raw for me is just I can't sit down and enjoy it anymore because every time I enjoy it, I just don't feel the same urge. And you know what? Maybe that's me. Maybe I need an older wrestling show. Maybe it's because wrestling's PG-13. Maybe it's because they cater more to kids. And maybe it's because, AEW, New Japan, Ring of Honor, that sort of stuff, that caters to an older audience. And maybe that's just it at its core. But at the same time, I've seen them put on some really cool storylines under that PG-13 banner as well. So I don't know what it is. But every single week, we're always hearing a different excuse. Oh, it's the audience. Oh, it's the ratings. Or, oh, it's something on TV. Oh, it's football. Oh, it's the president debate. Oh, it's this and that. It's never WWE's fault, and I'm sick of that. I really, really am. And this is why it's called a Wrastlin Wrantz show, my folks. We rant about wrestling. But do you see where I'm coming from?
Yes. I mean, there's no secret that WWE has hemorrhaged viewers in the last 5 years, and it's very clear why. It's not a PG-13 problem. You can have PG-13 wrestling. We've had great stories during this period. We've had great feuds and matches. However, you then get a show that is, as we've said before, like this one this week was ripped up and changed at the last minute. They've been writing shows as it's been on air in the previous couple of years. It's nothing new. And it goes to the point that we said about your show isn't around one guy. Yes, one segment got ruined because unfortunately your champion got COVID. However, there should be somebody in the wings that can take over that place. I was surprised Sheamus didn't do it, to be honest, but there we go. Triple H steps in. Like the last time Triple H was wrestled on television was a Saudi Arabia show.
Yeah.
So he's been absent in a wrestling capacity for over a year. So yeah, it's tricky to defend it when it happens, and it's interesting hearing the defense, and then as you've very quickly poked holes in it and said, yeah, there is no excuse for this. And unfortunately, it would appear the only way it changes is if the top line of WWE change, and that's not going to happen for a very long time. People, please do not sit there and say it's going to change, because it will not change for a long, long time.
Yeah, and I also want to go on the record by saying, like, it's not all Raw that's bad. Like, I have to point out Keith Lee. Like, Keith Lee first came in after NXT. They got rid of his entrance, for some reasons, but then they gave him a new entrance. He's been showing what he can be made of. Him and Sheamus tag teaming and then going back and forth. I don't know what was going on there. It was like they were almost feeding a commercial break. But
yeah, I was going to say, when you said that was good, and then I was like, well, they did have that weird falling out and then buddy thing, so it's not perfect.
Yeah, and then the week with was it Keith Lee? Was it Sheamus that he fought last week, or who was it that Keith Lee fought?
Honestly, Cody, I cannot remember WWE week to week, and it's really bad. But that's the problem with the show. You can't remember stuff because it means nothing.
And then we had Jeff Hardy versus Elias again, which I thought that would feed die.
Yeah.
So, and also what bothered me about Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre anyway, though, like, it was advertised that Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre was going to happen. Okay, first of all, Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton pretty much fought each other for 4 months, and that stopped about, 3-4 months ago? You have nobody in the locker room that can go up against Drew? Second of all, Randy Orton said that he was going into the Royal Rumble. So I figured, okay, he's moving on past that feud. He's going to be in the Royal Rumble. He's going to try and get he's going to win. He's going to try and face the champion again. Fine. And then he also has that background feud with The Fiend going. So Randy Orton's good. He doesn't need to be near Drew McIntyre right now. And quickly just popping over to the SmackDown side, since we're on WWE, one thing that truly, truly bothered me about SmackDown. Now, yes, SmackDown right now is a better show. Maybe it's because it's 2 hours. Maybe because everything just wraps up easier within 2 hours, it doesn't get stretched out for 3. I don't know. It's the same writer, so I don't know what's going on. But one thing that really bothered me, and I know it fuels the storyline, and people are like, just be patient, let the storyline pan out. But that's the thing. I have been patient with WWE for the last 15 years. And and again, we've said we've gotten some good feuds here and there, but there's just so much inconsistency to the point they literally control the fans' reactions. They put in the pipe noise. They also control how you react on the screen. It's like, oh yeah, you want to be part of the Thunderdome, you want to be part of the virtual audience. They literally control your reactions. I've seen it. They'll if someone's booing, they will change it. They will stop you. They will change your footage. And I think whether it's in the small print or not, I think that's so wrong as a company. Not only is it wrong, but it shows how insecure you are as a company. You should never ever force an audience member to change their reaction because of your product. If the audience is booing, they have a right to boo. They paid their ticket to be there. You have no right to tell them what they can and cannot do, as long as they're not breaking any rules. Being that said, we had that gauntlet match. Now, again, I've never been much of a fan of gauntlet matches to begin with, but I thought it was going to be Daniel Bryan. It looked like it was going to be Shinsuke Nakamura, but the second Adam Pearce was announced earlier on in the night, I was like, oh no. And the rumor is that it's not going to be Adam Pearce, it's going to be Kevin Owens. And do you know what that reminds me of, James?
I am struggling to think. As soon as you say it, I'll be like, oh yeah.
All right. Well, think of the Money in the Bank match, not in 2020, but in 2019.
Oh no. Yes.
So we had about 6-7 people in the ring for like 15-20 minutes, absolutely killing each other. Brock Lesnar winning the Money in the Bank thing was kind of hilarious at times, but it pissed me off because we saw 6, 7, 8 people absolutely kill each other in that ring through ladders and whatever, and just destroyed themselves, put on a massive show, only for Brock Lesnar to be paid a certain amount of money to come out at the end of the match and just win. And I was like, that is an insult to your roster. I don't give a crap if they're okay with it. I wouldn't be okay with that. I would like, so you're what? You're going to pay me $20,000. Let's just, put some random numbers up there. I'm going to pay you $20,000 to go out there and do all these crazy ladder moves. And then I'm going to pay Brock Lesnar $1 million to come out in the last 5 minutes and not do anything and win. That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound right on paper either. He wasn't even part of that match. He didn't earn his spot. He didn't do anything. He just walked in there and won. So regarding getting back to the gauntlet match, you had 5 guys in there at first. Adam Pearce came out in the end. I know it's fueling the storyline with Kevin, or with not Kevin Owens, with Roman Reigns. And I'm digging the whole tribal chief thing. I really am.
That's
I really
an amazing story.
Yeah, it is. It makes sense. And I mean, if The Rock can get involved at WrestleMania, that'd be great. If he can't, so be it, whatever. But I don't like how the fact that 5 guys went out there and busted their ass, and then all of a sudden Adam Pearce comes out, and then he wins. But then if Adam Pearce is not going to make it to the Royal Rumble and Kevin Owens is going to take his place, that means that entire gauntlet match was pointless. And I know it fuels the storyline, but still, those guys are athletic. They're going out there, they're busting their ass, they're putting on a story only for someone to go home for 2 weeks and come home and take the glory. So at this point, I don't want it to be Kevin Owens. We've already seen Kevin Owens twice. Nothing against Kevin Owens. I've already seen him twice and lose against Roman Reigns. Yes, it was because of interference. Yes, it was because of Jey Uso. But I don't want to see that. I want to see just, if Kevin Owens was going to be part of that gauntlet match and won, great, fine, fantastic. If what's his name, Adam Pearce came in, and again, for the record, they have not once told us his actual role. He just the first appearance he ever really made on SmackDown was when it first went to Fox. He showed up like once a month, or maybe once every 2 months, and then slowly but surely he showed up more and more and more and more, until the point where he's just pretty much the GM of both shows. So that hasn't really been explained to the audience. We just have to assume that he's the one in charge. So there's been no actual storyline behind that. And people can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there has been much of it. They've just been saying, oh yeah, Adam Pearce, you're making matches. Oh yeah, Adam Pearce. Oh yeah, Adam Pearce said this. Adam Pearce just showed up out of the blue.
Yes. He had a good reaction to the Fiend in an ambulance, and I think that's how he became not general manager, but general manager of both shows. Yeah, I don't think there has been any on-screen confirmation of what his role is, other than he's Adam Pearce, and that's meant to mean something to the casual viewer or the person that just watches and doesn't really know who Adam Pearce is. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's not like Adam Pearce comes out at the beginning of the show and is like, "Welcome to Monday Night Raw. I'm Adam Pearce," and blah blah blah. Like, give it, like, just, and then all the wrestlers were just going to him asking for matches, and I was like, since when does Adam Pearce been in charge? like, and then Stephanie McMahon just randomly popped up during that Bayley and Sasha Banks feud with Asuka, and and people, again, it's funny because if you're just a casual wrestler or you tune in for the first time, you have no idea what's going on.
No, and it's, again, if we do the comparison, because it's easy to do. You go to AEW, they run the little VTs beforehand for big matches to say, this is what's happening, these are the bad guy, this is the good guy, here you go, this is a bit of a story, off we go, let's have a go and see what happens. Yeah, the good thing about the gauntlet match is that we seem to have a Shinsuke Nakamura that's going to be a face again, which that'll be. I mean, it's a shame that his theme possibly will change back to his old theme where there's no audience to sing it back. But when you were talking about, obviously, the fan changing and the reactions, and it's completely micromanaged. This is Vince McMahon's perfect world, because he doesn't have to deal with the public. Because he can control the reactions, the cheers, the boos. It's fantastic. He'll love that. However, I am absolutely fascinated when things go back to normal, when we have audiences again, and we have audiences that have been given this product for the last, we're coming on to a year now of the empty arena shows, where things dropped off a cliff so bad that I stopped watching NXT because I just couldn't watch it. I have started watching NXT a bit more, but I'm not back to watching it weekly. And we have that history where things just do not matter anymore. Nothing you watch matters week to week. As I mentioned before, I can't remember what really happened last week on Raw. Ask me what happened 2 weeks ago on SmackDown. On Raw, no idea. You could absolutely feed me anything and I'd believe you. Was that the week that Bray Wyatt got set on fire? Possibly. Or was that the week before?
That was maybe 2-3 weeks ago now. I can't even remember.
and that's a guy that's set on fire. Yep. That should be reminiscing with us and go, big impactful thing. No. I mean, was it last week that Alexa Bliss got set alight? Or implied that she got set on fire?
No, you know what? I can actually answer this one. It wasn't last Raw.
The one before.
Because it was the one before, because there was a week there where Alexa Bliss, she got lit on. Well, she was about to get lit on fire, and then the next Raw there was no mention.
Forgot about it.
Alexa Bliss wasn't even on television.
Yep.
And Randy Orton was just like, "Oh yeah, I decided not to do it."
Yeah. Exactly. So, it's like, what's going on? And I know it's easy to have a go at WWE. You know why? Because they make it easy.
Yeah.
They make it easy. They're $1 billion company because they monopolize the whole industry. And it always makes me laugh when somebody's linked to another wrestling promotion and everybody goes, "Oh, there's a former WWE guy." Of course it is. That's the only place you could have earned a living at one point.
True.
So, yeah, Kenny Omega is an ex-WWE guy. If you really want to push it. So, like, it's, yeah, you should be better at your jobs. You should be, but they don't have to be. You know what? Success breeds incompetence. And, yeah, we have seen this. This company has been running pretty much in automatic for the last 20 years to the point where it cannot create new stars on its own. accidentally generates them. Roman Reigns coming back as a heel and being fantastic at it wasn't because of WWE. That was because of a global scenario. Roman Reigns disappears, stops fighting about dog food, and comes back and is allowed to have a bit more freedom, by all rumours. Now, fans have been asking for this more badass Roman Reigns for years.
Yep.
Daniel Bryan, classic example from years ago.
Captain Planet.
A company that just doesn't listen to its fan base and doesn't listen to its audience. I just don't understand how it can be still.
You mentioned not being able to get back into NXT, and I want to make a point for that. But just one more point about wrestling or WWE not listening to its audience is you heard what Miro said. When Rusev was over, when Rusev Day was over, they literally told him backstage that the reason why they're cheering him was they were mocking him.
Yes.
They weren't cheering him because they liked him. And I was like, how pompous are you? You don't want, Rusev has gotten over in spades. The world loves him. Everybody was chanting Rusev Day to the hills. Everybody wanted to buy their merchandise, but they were all just doing it because they were mocking him. That's not only an insult to your employee, but that's an insult to the fans. And if the fans do, once the fans do come back, and it's going to be interesting, like you pointed out, when everything comes back. Right now, yeah, we're in Vince's perfect world where he gets to control everything, the audience reactions and everything. But if the audience comes back, and you tell the audience what to do, that's going to make them even more upset. And you're not going to be able to filter them out. You're not going to be able to filter out 10,000 people chanting, "You suck. This is boring." It's happened before. I certainly don't want them to get violent. I don't want them to throw stuff into the ring. But if you're telling the audience you can't boo, you can't speak, you can only cheer when we say so, and if you start cheering for this star, we're going to take it like you're mocking them. They're not going to have an audience. I can't believe that $1 billion company can be so insecure. But with NXT, the reason why I can't get invested in NXT, do I watch the takeovers? Absolutely. I used to watch NXT right after AEW, before all this nonsense happened in the world. But what I've learned now is very few get treated like they're from NXT in WWE. The second you move up to NXT, or the second you move up to WWE, your character's changed, you're forgotten about, everything you've done in NXT didn't happen. Like, there's just some people get it, some people don't, or it only portrays when it fits the storyline. Like, they never really, like, they're acknowledging Charlotte's title runs, but that's just because Charlotte. Yeah. Exactly. So it's like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Charlotte is one of the most athletic, phenomenal wrestlers in the world. But I don't know, like, why they don't acknowledge all of this stuff. Like, there are so many former NXT champions, and if NXT is going to be this third dominant brand, and you want it to succeed on Wednesday nights, you have to acknowledge that the people who are on your Mondays and Fridays are paved the way now, because those are your stars. Triple H grooms them. He gets them the best they can. He gives them the best matches. He puts them in great spotlights. He moves them up. And then WWE changes everything and ruins them. Look at Matt Riddle. That is not the Matt Riddle that I fell in love with in NXT. Not even close. I think it's kind of funny at times. But, like, I can't. It's Matt Riddle. He's a former UFC MMA fighter, and he's one badass hell of a guy. And despite his bro persona, he can go. He shouldn't be toying around and being tapping out to Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley is also a previous MMA fighter. Just let them go. Do you know what I mean? So I've had to literally stop watching NXT weekly because I'm too scared to invest.
One big name that jumps out to me whenever you mention NXT and main roster ruining them, somebody that a couple of years ago was king of the world. In fact, he called himself a king. Ricochet.
Yes.
Hopefully, The fact that he has not been appearing recently means he hasn't signed his contract and he's leaving that place. Because, yes, you've got Ricochet on your books. How can you... A few months ago, Ricochet against Jeff Hardy was on Main Event.
Yeah.
How is that possible? How have you put that on the Main Event? That should be pay-per-view. Big pay-per-view. SummerSlam, for example. Maybe WrestleMania.
And for anyone listening too, the show Main Event is ironic. Because it's where all the people go that aren't Main Event. Which is sad because Jeff Hardy and Ricochet are both Main Event players, but they're on the Main Event show that is just like, oh yeah, it's our C show. It's whatever's left over. It's the scraps.
It's basically you go out and you get warmed up. You warm the crowd up during crowd period, or you're the go home effectively after the main taping.
I made a joke about Ricochet too and Aleister Black. Not like
Aleister Black is another one, yeah. Yeah,
like a while back when Ricochet and Aleister Black were in NXT. Was it then that won the tag team tournament, the Dusty Rhodes Classic?
They won the Dusty Rhodes Classic.
Yeah.
Then at that takeover, they took on the Viking Raiders and had an awesome match. And then the night after, they were at WrestleMania and had an awesome match.
Yeah, so like I made a joke back when Ricochet and Aleister Black were killing it down in NXT. You know, he was a former NXT North American champion, which is fantastic. And I was like, I can't wait for Ricochet to come up to the main shows. I can't wait to Aleister Black to come up to the shows, but I'm a little worried. But then I thought to myself, how can you ruin Aleister Black? How can you ruin Ricochet? How? You know, he's got the whole damn package. He's got everything you've ever wanted in a superstar and in a wrestler. And lo and behold, well, they proved me wrong.
I mean, the first thing you do with both of those is you add sound effects to their entrances.
Yep,
well,
exactly.
I mean, yeah, straight away, what the hell is that? So, well, it's like Keith Lee. Keith Lee comes out, bask in his glory. It's a fantastic theme. Comes out, bask in his glory. Oh, brilliant. And then some weird generic noise.
Yep.
Well, this isn't Keith Lee. Who's this guy? It's as you say, the Viking Experience debacle lost me on it all. I just went, well, there is literally no point watching NXT if this is what happens. There is no point investing in these guys. It's why with Adam Cole, I really hope that he goes and joins his significant other. Because NXT, there's not really much left for him to do there. And there's no way he'd be treated right on the main roster, on Raw and SmackDown. No way. Because he's a little guy. You know, little guys can't do anything. You have to be over 6'2" to do anything in WWE. And even then, it's not guaranteed. So
we do have we do have exceptions within everything, like Rey Mysterio, for example. But I mean, I'm glad that you brought up Adam Cole.
Rey Mysterio has been around since the 90s.
Right? Yeah. But I'm glad that you brought up Adam Cole, because before we ended things with like 5-10 minutes left in the podcast, I actually wanted to segue back into AEW and talk about Dr. Britt Baker, because did she ever crack me up last night? Do you mind switching back to AEW just to end things on the show?
I never mind switching to AEW, Cody. Go ahead.
Well, I'm not sure if you've been watching is it the break room on AEW Dark? But
waiting room, yes.
The waiting room, yes. The waiting room. Oh my gosh, it cracks me up. It's been funny on Dark, and they had the first debut of it there on Dynamite, and I love how Reba just goes, oh, and laughs at everything. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's hilarious because she's being told, like she's being paid. She's pretty much, I don't know the full dynamic between that relationship, but it's like Reva's stuck in a situation where it's like, I need to be paid by this woman, but I'm stuck in the situation I don't want to be in. But I also don't want to turn on Britt Baker because I'm kind of scared of her. So it's kind of funny. It's really, really hilarious. And the whole how Britt Baker acts when Thunder Rosa came up, and then she was like, no, this isn't gonna happen. I spoke to Tony, this isn't gonna happen. And then the thing flopped, the card came up on the Titantron, and she was like all upset, and just Britt Baker is amazing. And when she beat up Thunder Rosa there a couple of weeks ago or so backstage, and she like attacked her, and she was vicious and ferocious, like she was fast about it, and like Britt Baker can definitely go, and Thunder Rosa can definitely go, as we've seen. So I'm already looking forward to that feud. I actually thought they might have stretched that out to Revolution because that's at the end of February, but we're going to do it at Beach Break. And having Cody involved in there, and the little jabs that Britt Baker always does, and when Jade came in, I mean, I was blown away by how ripped Jade is.
Oh, she's crazily ripped. There's like muscle upon muscle. Yeah, crazy.
I can only hope that when Brandy comes back from her pregnancy, that while she has her time off, she's like working her muscles too, so that when they come back, they look very similar. Like both two ripped women were just ready to go.
Well, I think the way that things are progressing, I think if Brandy comes back, that feud won't be happening because there's bigger things in the future. Bigger things, because my word, she holds herself so well. That is the thing. She stands up and you take notes. She's really made, again, no pun intended, an impact on the show. It's massive what she's been able to do after some said quite a shaky start with her promo. Yes, it's her first promo, she's going to be a bit nervous, but she's improving and you're seeing it, and she's got a flair for it.
Yeah, I mean, if this continues, Jade is definitely going to be an AEW Women's Champion.
Oh, for sure. I mean, NWA champion possibly, because that seems to be the better belt at the moment.
And now, speaking of the AEW Championship 2, or the AEW Women's Championship, what did you think of the Abaddon Hikaru Shida feud last week?
It progressed. Like, as soon as Abaddon took Shida under the ring, it was quite horrific, really. Abaddon, for me, she encapsulates her role, and she is scary, and you can believe that somebody would just be freaked out by her because she bites, but because she thinks she's a zombie, but she's scary, and she scares the crap out of me. I still go back to that Anna Jay match, and I think we spoke about it like an hour after I'd seen it, and I was still in absolute shock of what I'd seen. I thought Abaddon should have maybe won that match, but Abaddon's one of those kind of wrestlers that you can put on the sidelines for a little bit, bring her back, and she'll be fine. They'll reheat her really easily. It's the same with Brian Cage. Brian Cage, yes, by now you could say the big matches he seems to lose them, but then you just need him to throw somebody off something really hard and high in the air, and you go, oh yeah, Jesus Christ, Brian Cage is a machine. So yeah, I think Shida's suffering from the fact that the only clear person to take her title at the moment is Britt Baker, and Britt Baker's feuding with Thunder Rosa, which is great. Don't get me wrong, Thunder Rosa Britt Baker's a fantastic feud, but I kind of feel like it should be for the title, and Britt should have the title.
Well, hopefully after this, we'll get Britt Baker in the championship position, and maybe she takes from Hikaru Shida, maybe she doesn't. But one thing, and I keep asking, I know AEW never listens to these podcasts, Tony Khan, I know, and nobody's listening to these podcasts, but we've got to make that belt bigger. I don't want that teeny title belt anymore. I'm done. That's one of the things I have to actually completely give props to, give respect to the WWE side, is that their championships look equal. One's white, one's black, but they're both the same size. They both represent the champion, and the women do not need a teeny tiny title. They don't need it.
It looks like a bracelet in comparison to the men's. It's embarrassing.
Yes, it is, and I think that's one of their major. Like, I'm not saying a belt represents your entire division, But at the same time, but at the same time, when it's that small, it adds a massive chunk to it. And you need to be able to just like, hey, you know, why is the women's belt so much smaller? And people are like, well, I guess, you know, most people's reaction would be like, well, I guess they have more investment in their men, or they think more about their men than their women. And we want equality here. And AEW is all about equality. They've shown a lot of equality. So hopefully, you know, maybe if Britt Baker gets the belt, she'll make such a fuss that she'll make it bigger. Because I can see that. I can see that happening. She'll go right up to Tony and she'll be like, this is unacceptable.
That is a great right around of making it bigger. I think just the defense of the smaller belt. I think they built a lot on the Japanese wrestlers being able to fight in AEW, and Rio, for example, is tiny. But yeah, still no excuse really. It should be a lot better.
Completely agree. So with that, we will wrap things up. Thanks to everyone who continues to listen to the podcast. If you want to head to my independent music side of things, I've started talking to a lot of different artists around the world, different synthwave, synth pop artists, things that sound like the 80s. I've started talking to, I recently spoke to Dana Jean Phoenix. I recently spoke to Thought Beings. I spoke to Michael Oakley. I spoke to Napalm Fugitive, and I spoke to Digital Ghost. And coming up in the next few weeks, I'm going to be speaking to Elevate the Sky, Power Nerd, possibly Griff, The Future Kids, Heliotronic, and more. You can also find all of our socials on SoundCloud under Lotus Moon Productions, Facebook under Lotus Moon Productions, Twitter under Lotus Moon Prod, Lotus M Productions on Instagram for the independent music side of things. So you can catch up on all of those podcasts, and you can search us up on YouTube under Lotus Moon Productions. So with that, this has been LMP Wrestling, and we are signing off.